Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Life Conversations with a Twist. I have the honor to have Amy Chambers on. Her and I just got connected, and I'm like already so inspired by all the work you're doing and your energy and all the things. So tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, where you live, and a little bit about the work that you're doing.
I love it. Thanks so much. I live in Long Beach, California. Was from Buffalo, New York originally, so a very big difference from where I was born and grew up to where I live today. I spent 21 years in financial services, left at the end of 2021 to become a coach and a consultant. I've written two books since then. My first book was on leadership, the second book on happiness and joy and personal growth. And yeah, today I continue to write, and I'm a runner is probably the other big fun fact about me. I just finished my 255th half marathon this past weekend, have a goal to run in all 50 states, and ran in New Hampshire this past weekend, state 32. So running is what takes up my free time.
Oh my gosh, I did see that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've done one half marathon, and that felt like a huge undertaking. And so I can't even imagine. You said 255?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was Sunday. It was 255.
How were you always a runner? Like even growing up when you were little?
I was not. So the book I'm working on now, the working title for it is Couldn't Run a Mile. And about 10 years ago, I literally couldn't run a mile. I couldn't even make it to the end of the block without stopping. And I had a boss at that time that was constantly preaching about how we can do hard things. Struggle is a good thing. You can learn things that you never did before. We can change anything about ourselves. And I used running as the test project for that. I was very curious to know how true is that really. It all sounded good, but I just didn't quite believe it. And I slowly trained myself to walk several miles, then jog several miles, then run several miles. And at some point, I did a 5K, and it was this phenomenal feeling. I felt very accomplished. And I set my sights on what about a half marathon? And slowly, with practice and effort, and a really good relationship with self. Like it's not always going to feel great. You're going to have some bad days, but that's all right. I did get to that first half marathon and I was hooked. It was this addictive thing. Everyone in the running community was very positive and energetic and really supportive of one another. And they all believed in themselves and their capabilities more. And so I got pretty obsessed with it and went from 10 years ago, couldn't run a mile, to I'm now closing in on 15,000 miles of running. So yeah, I'm going to write a book about it.
That is so cool. I would love to read that because I think that's so inspiring. I know it was one of those things. I was never a runner either. And then I was like, I'm going to try it. Like, why not? Like, we can do hard things. And I did not run it straight. Like
Yes.
I like ran 5 minutes, walked a minute, and that was like my pace. And then my kids were at the end, and like it was definitely one of those huge accomplishments. I haven't done it since, but it's definitely on the bucket list to do it again. So I couldn't imagine doing that many though. It's wild. Good for
I
you.
love what you said about you ran five and you walked one. I think so many people don't start because they're ashamed of the walking and they feel like they need to run it the whole way through. There's tons of people walking any distance, and it's this grace where you allow yourself to just do as much as you can, and then you take that break and rest and recover. And when you feel like I can jog or run a little again, I do. I think if people knew that that was acceptable, it's like they're not going to throw you off the course for that. A lot more people would try it. I mean, some people just walk them from the start to the finish, and they walk the whole thing. And I think it's really impressive, and it's different than just being on the couch or saying I can't. Like what you said is, I'll just try. I wish
Mhm.
more people knew that, but yeah, no shame at all in having to walk at times, or again, walk the entire course.
Well, and it's something about like being around everybody's like their energy. It like totally excites you and it like just kind of like keeps you motivated. There's
Yeah,
this really cool energy that happens. And I think that's the other
you're
thing
right.
that people don't know that until they actually do it. And that
Yeah,
is very motivating. Have you done a
you're
full
right.
marathon or just halves?
I have. I've done 12, and
Okay.
the reason for the differential is that the full is a different beast. I find it really challenging, and the training process for 26 miles is way more intensive for the average person than for the 13. It's not just double the distance, it's like that mile 20 or 22. Your body really does start breaking down, and I haven't enjoyed it as much. But yeah, I've done 12 of them. I was very proud when I finished my first full marathon, came through the finish line crying. You know, the
Mhm.
photos are ugly cry tears. I was really surprised and impressed with myself. I thought to myself as I was nearing that finish line and hearing the cattle bells,
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to do this. And it was at that moment I did agree with my boss. Wow, we can really do anything we set our
Mhm.
minds to. It just all comes down to whether or not we believe it and we're willing to try. But yeah, it's a real breakdown on the body. So 12 fulls, I do plan to do more, but it's become kind of like a 1 or 2 a year thing, whereas the halves, it's, like 25 of them a year is the half is the distance for me. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could never do a full. I would put that out there. No,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, so you said your background, like your career started in finances. Like what kind of work did you do? And is that where like this whole like leadership kind of came into your life?
It is. I started as a teller at the bank. I did that job all through college, then joined a leadership development program. Spent a few years working in the branches, became a branch manager, was a branch manager for several years, and then became a district manager and did that job for a lot of years where I had 15 or so branches. And I saw a lot of bad leadership throughout these time periods,
Mhm.
and it became really important to me to lead differently. And
Mhm.
I know the names of all of my 200, 250 people out in my branches, make sure that they were getting coaching and training and we were investing in them, make sure they felt appreciated and acknowledged and rewarded and recognized. And we knew what they wanted to do next and why they were there. And communication every day. Like, we're not just trying to get these numbers, we're actually trying to change these customers' lives. And like,
Mhm.
our advice helps them be better financially, which allows them to do the things they want to do. Like, it's just that important. And over time, I learned with great leadership, you can get people excited, they're engaged,
Mhm.
they're loyal, they feel like work is fun. And it became my life's work. And I became obsessive over, like, what are the conditions under which people feel that way and don't. And I finished my career as a COO. I was proud of that I made it to a chief role. But I did kind of feel that I had sort of done what I needed to do in the financial space. I realized my passion was about coaching and consulting and really helping individuals move their lives forward. And by the time I was a COO, I was writing board reports and sitting in IT steering committee meetings and looking at audit, compliance, risk stuff. I'd kind of gotten away from the employees and the coaching and the teaching. And so I decided to branch out and start something new. But it was a great 20 years, and most of it was focused on becoming a better leader. And that's really where the framework for the first book was developed. It was in this financial
Mhm.
services career I had, where I tested all these different concepts, and then I said it's these 7 things. If you have these 7 things, you do them together, you've got great leadership. So yeah,
Can you
it
talk
was it
about
was
what
very much
this
focused on leadership.
can you talk about
Yeah,
what those 7 steps are?
I,
You don't have to
I
like dive into it because we want people to read your book, but I'm curious on like what are the 7 like key components to it?
yeah. I'll just tell you. So the book is called Seven Virtues of Exceptional Leaders. Virtues is an acronym, so I'll just quickly rattle off the 7 letters. V is for vision, I is for
Mhm.
involve, R is for routines, T is for talk, U is for understand, E is for encourage, and S is for showcase. And those are the
Mhm.
chapters. Lots of practices, processes, actionable steps of like what you do in each of these things and what I mean by them. But that's what virtues actually stands for.
Oh, I love that. Do a lot of the leaders that you're working with, is it like a certain industry that you're working with, or is it kind of leadership all over the board?
It's all over the board. And I think what's cool about this framework that I developed, and just my experience in watching people lead in, all sorts of different situations, whether it's a community service organization, whether it's in academia, healthcare, the principles are the same.
Mhm.
It's, any business that's like got people as, the end customer, or, the employees you're working with. We're all human. We want a lot of the same things. E is a really important one. I think we want to be encouraged, acknowledged. We want to be seen. We want to be noticed. We
Mhm.
want to be honored for our individual strengths. Whether you're in IT or you're in a classroom or you're in financial services, people have that need. And so it works no matter what line of business. One of my other favorite ones is the I for involve.
Mhm.
When we tell people what to do and we just give them directions and we bark orders, something shuts down. They lose their creative juice. They don't necessarily feel like they're capable or competent or intelligent. But when we turn kind of the keys to the castle over to them and say, what do you think? I trust you to make this decision. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you some tools and training so you can make great decisions, but I'm going to let you decide what the next step in this project or this process should be. People kind of come alive and they get really motivated to find find their own solutions and self-discover. Again, that's across the board. That works in any industry. So I do a lot of my clients honestly are in the financial services space because I knew them in past lives. I
Mm.
worked for 6 different companies during my 21 years. And so they're some of my clients are former direct reports of mine. And they saw what I was going to do. They kind of came to me. But they've referred me to other people, and then I've found other people that are not in the financial services space. I've got some tech, which is really fun for me because it's a very different skill set than my own, and I don't know much about it. And what I've learned from coaching some engineering and some IT professionals is it just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the core concepts of how do we get things done, how do we get results? It's not industry specific at all. It's very universal. So yeah, that's it's a mix.
I love that. I definitely want to read that. And I like can think of people that because I do consulting as well, but not on leadership side, but I know there's so many that could totally benefit from that because it like even just being involved in projects where a new leader's coming in and embracing these like things, I'm like, this is where the team's going to succeed. This is where the business is going to succeed. If you like hold, if you're on the same playing field with the rest of the team, like I feel like so much magic can happen.
Oh my gosh, so true. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give to a young leader is that it's not about you, it's about them. I think so
Mhm.
often we feel like I'm the manager because I know all the stuff and I've got all the answers. That's really not what managers and leaders are there for. They're actually there to help the people around them have all the answers and know all the things. And so, really, instead of answering the questions, you're kind of there to ask the questions and help people find their own answers. But I think so often it's like, oh, it's about what I bring to the table and what I can show people. And it's really like it's about actually the talent you can unleash in them. It doesn't work with you thinking of yourself at the top and everyone underneath you. It's you're all there together, and it's that team approach. And the magic happens when we see that and we say we're going to move forward as a group. And I made a lot of mistakes when I was a young leader, and so a lot of the book is about my own failures and missteps, and then what I found out from doing it wrong so often. But yeah, I love what you said about the magic and the team and everybody
Mhm.
being together. That's I wish more people had the courage to say it's not me, it's them.
Hmm. No, so good. There are so many fantastic leaders out there right now. Who's your favorite leader or somebody that is in the public eye that you're like they're doing it right?
Oh, I love that. I think the people that I get excited about most are the people that are teaching leadership to others. And so I don't know if any of these names will resonate with you, but people like Brene Brown,
Mhm.
Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, Jenna Kutcher, Brendan Burchard, Cy Wakeman. A lot of these individuals are they're on stages, they're doing TED Talks, but they also offer workshops and classes, and they're writing books and putting together masterminds to help others lead well. They're just wanting to teach leadership, but they're also teaching concepts around personal accountability and personal
Mhm.
responsibility, and ultimately saying, like, it doesn't matter how you started in life or what the heck has happened to you. Your greatness comes down to the decisions and the choices you make every day, and you don't have to feel a certain way. Your choices are things you decide. You don't have to be angry or sad because of how something was unfair or how you got mistreated. You get to step up and wake up and thrive at life every day. And I wish the whole world knew that because I think we'd be in a different place. So I think I really am attracted to these influencers, for lack of a better word, that are teaching people to live empowered lives. Dave Ramsey is another great example.
Mhm.
I always think of him as the money guy. Like, don't have debt, be responsible. I just listened to an hour and a half podcast between him and Chris Williamson this morning, and I was blown away. I hadn't really heard Dave Ramsey speak on things that weren't money related, and I was like, I gotta hear this a second time. This is fantastic. And it was, don't be a victim. Don't think about your past circumstances. If it's something you can't control, it doesn't belong on your mind. The successful people with joy have a penchant for action. They may not feel like doing something, and that's when they know they need to act most. And every sentence he said, I was like, yes, yes, yes. And so I get really excited about people like that are trying to teach leadership and help people live better lives.
I love all of those people you said. They are all the people that I listen to and follow as well. So I'm totally on board with that. You'll have to send me that episode because I know a lot of people who I could send that to. That I'm like, can we stop playing the victim? Can we just like
I will
take
send it to you
ownership?
right after this show.
Yeah. I'm like, just own your life, right? Like you cannot keep the past like
Yeah.
influencing how you make decisions now. And like you are literally in the driver's seat of your life. So it's like take reins of that and move on. So yes, I'm all for that. And I agree with you. I wish more people were they had the mindset to like want to do more personal development or to follow and be encouraged by people like that. So yeah, I agree. Can everyone just tune in, please?
I think something really powerful happens when we take ownership. You use the word ownership. I love that word. It's hard in the short term to take ownership. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes you have to say it's my fault
Mhm.
when it would be way easier to just point the finger and blame, or you have to identify actions you're going to take when you don't feel like you should have to. Like, why can't that other department or my spouse be the one to fix this? But when we actually take ownership, something really awesome happens. We are focused on the things we can control, and we actually feel better when we're focused on things we can control. I think
Mhm.
we feel sad and anxious and fearful when we're focused on the things out of our control. And when we take ownership, it's kind of like saying it's up to me.
Mhm.
I have the ability to affect the change I want to see, and I think people that know that and believe that, they get what they want. And so
Mhm.
it's again, it's hard in the short term, but it leads us to a life that we want, where I think we're wealthier. We know happiness comes from within. And then we've basically built a life where we've got more free time to travel or do the things we want or hang out with our kids. And we don't feel like we're kind of a slave to the system. And so ownership is, again, it's hard when you start, but if you practice it, it's like the if you do what is easy, your life is hard. If you do what is
Mhm.
hard, your life is easy. Ownership is kind of hard, but it leads to a better, in some ways, easier life in the long term. So yeah, can everybody just take some ownership? I think that's a great quote that you said.
I love that so much. So you do a lot of leadership coaching, but you also do like life coaching. Is this with the same client or do you offer like two different types of things? Like talk to me about the different types of coaching that you do, because I can definitely see where the life coaching comes
Yeah.
in just based on everything you just told me.
It's really funny. I'm just going to be very transparent and vulnerable with you and tell you I have had a really hard time branding myself and knowing what to call myself,
Mhm.
because unlike a lot of other coaches, I find it hard to distinguish between like leadership, career, and executive coaching and life coaching, mindset coaching, individual coaching. It's all the same thing. I think how we
Mhm.
do one thing is often how we do everything.
Mhm.
And so a lot of my clients hire me for a specific reason. I have definitely been hired for distinct reasons. Someone's like, I want to lose weight. I need to fix my relationship or try to save my marriage, or I want to spend time and figure out like, do I want to stay married?
Mhm.
But I need to make more money, struggling, and I want to be successful. I need us to get results. I want to build a better business. And in every situation, whatever we started talking about, we end up talking about the other thing. And so my business clients and kind of executive clients have said, I didn't realize I was also hiring a therapist, or I didn't realize I was going to get feedback on my marriage, but somehow we just end up talking about that a lot. It
Mhm.
comes up, and I didn't know that, and I like it, but that was not what I expected, 6 months ago or a year ago. And then my individual people that kind of were like, I started out just wanting to get into better shape, or talk about my fitness or my interpersonal relationships. I can't help but start asking them, like, where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years? We got to work backwards. Like, where do you really want to end up? And when it tumbles out that they're not in love with their job and it just pays the bills, and but it's okay. I can't help but point out, like, you could probably do whatever it is that you wanted. And if you identify something you're passionate about and your ideal state, there's no reason we shouldn't be working towards that. And so they
Right.
kind of sometimes start showing up and saying, actually, I realized I did have a question in that town hall, or that I did have the courage to push back on my boss, or that, like, I think I do deserve more, just like you've made me realize in my personal life. So I think in general, I call myself kind of a success strategist, or a mindset mentor. But there's a lot of overlap in terms of business and professional success and our personal success. In general, if the person is killing it in one area, they're usually doing really well in the other. And if we're struggling in one area, we kind of struggle all over. And so I'm still trying to figure out how to phrase that. The
Yeah.
coach that talks about everything. But yeah, that's probably the best kind of description and sort of examples of the kinds of things I talk about with people.
It's so true. I'm totally in the same boat as you. Like I do a lot of business development, like consulting on like how do you grow your business, but like because I do all of this personal development work and podcasting and like I strive to live the best life that I can, I do tend to get clients that are kind of in both boats. And so I'm totally with you. It's like
Love it.
when you can see them struggling in one area and you can coach them through that, but you were hired to do something else. So it is interesting
Yeah.
how to marry the two, and I'm totally in the same boat of like where do I live and where do I sit?
Yeah, it's I do have this nagging sensation that I need to define it and
Hmm.
get a niche market or like be able to explain it to people. But then when I really think about the work and ultimately it's about saying to anybody, what is it that you want out of life?
Hmm.
Where do you really want to, be? And then the principles that are going to take you there, it's usually kind of some of the stuff we've talked about, a mindset of ownership and accountability and responsibility. And it starts and ends with me, and there's always more I can do. And if I believe it and I see it in my mind, I can make it happen, but I got to be taking action and just figuring out what's the next step. Those things, again, are true of work. They're true of personal and home life.
Hmm.
They're true of our relationships with our friends. It's like, how are we not going to affect every area of your life by talking about you becoming that kind of person?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it's where people start and what they say. I just want help with this one thing. There's no way it doesn't bleed over into making those same decisions on the weekends that they were going to make on a Tuesday afternoon. And so, yeah, I guess I'm starting to ditch the idea of like I gotta define it and
Yeah,
I gotta work with this niche, and
yeah.
it's really not how the work actually looks. And so, why do I need to define it? So, yeah,
I
I
like I,
success strategist, mindset mentor,
I like the mindset
that's what it
mentor. I
is.
think that's cool. That and which leads me to
Yeah.
ask you, have you always had this type of mindset? Like have you or was there like a certain part in your life where you're like, okay, I need to take ownership of my life and like really lean into it and educate and empower myself?
Yeah, you're very perceptive. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
You're very perceptive and insightful. I chuckled the second you started asking the question because I'm like, yeah, she knows to ask. No, I was not always this way, and probably the reason I feel so strongly about these concepts now is it was really about 10 years ago I first discovered them at the exact same time I started running. And what happened is I went through a breakup. To me, I felt like it was abrupt and I was blindsided. My partner would say that's not true. He was leaving clues for a while or sort of talking about, hey, maybe this isn't working out. I just am going to say it. I was probably too narcissistic and self-centered to hear it. I
Yeah.
just wasn't. I look back now and I think, yeah, the signs were there, the information was there. I was ignoring it. I was avoiding it. But when he just basically left, which again felt abrupt to me, but probably was a long time coming, I was devastated. I was so
Mhm.
heartbroken. And I, for months, was in the house alone,
Mhm.
crying, not wanting to go out and see friends because we kind of had a shared set of friends. And I very much isolated myself. And I remember being a few months into that and sitting home alone on a Saturday night. Maybe I wasn't making the best decision, but I was taking a bath in the dark. And so, I mean, like, what a depressing environment I had put myself into. And I'm sitting in the bathtub in the dark on a Saturday night alone, crying, just
Mhm.
sobbing. And I remember thinking to myself as I just sat there for like a long period of time, like a couple hours, kind of like unable to stop crying, something has to change.
Yeah.
I got to do something different. He is not coming back. And all of my begging and pleading and emailing, texting about like, let's just kind of meet up and talk about it and like maybe give it another go. This is like not working. And I got a therapist who's amazing. I'm still spending time with her today. I asked the boss, it's really my boss's boss at that time, to mentor me. He was the person that was like, we can do hard things. Struggle is good.
Mhm.
This is a learning opportunity. You get to choose how you feel about it. And I'm like, ah, this all sounds like crap, but I'll go try it. And actually, it was at that time that I felt so, I guess, just depressed. I was having a hard time kind of like going to the gym and keeping up with my workouts. I'd always worked out, like elliptical, stationary bike, that kind of thing. I've never been a runner, but I decided that there would be something different about getting some vitamin D and being out in the elements. And so I was going on these long walks. And then again, yeah, walking turned to jogging, jogging turned to running. But before this happened, I think I expected things to be easy. I thought life would just kind of be handed to me.
Mhm.
When things went wrong, I would get kind of like unhinged. I remember having a temper, getting kind of upset a lot. I was a perfectionist at that time, probably still a recovering perfectionist now, but lots of people pleasing going on then. I honestly got a lot of these things from childhood. These were learned behaviors that my parents taught me. And my relationships were failing. I was doing okay at work. I was already a district manager, regional director, but in my interpersonal relationships, yeah, if my partner did something I didn't like, I would judge and criticize and tell him he was wrong. And I think I was a tough person to be around. And somehow in this aftermath, I got just something felt off about it. And I began for the first time saying, what if this is my fault? Like,
Mhm.
what if I caused some of this? In the past, I'd always been like, that was a bad boyfriend. It's them. They're a head case. And for the first time, I really said, I want to take accountability and responsibility for myself. I'm going to try to become a runner. I'm going to go see a therapist. I'm going to start reading some books. I'm going to ask my boss's boss to mentor me, who has a wonderful marriage and 8 kids and everything he wants. And slowly I started bumping into these concepts of everything we've talked about: accountability, yeah, the responsibility for ourselves, how we respond to things as a choice.
Mhm.
Uh, and I made this just dramatic life transformation. It was really in the year of 2015 that all of this happened. Life today, post breakup versus before that, I feel like a completely different person. And so yeah, it took a breakup, and it took me getting left and abandoned, and me to hit kind of rock bottom to say something has to change.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was not always this way, quite frankly.
I feel like it always is a moment. Like there's a time or something that pivotally happens in your life. But it's interesting you said 2015 because that was the same for me. It was 2015 when I like had this mind shift too of like wanting more and needing more. And I read Rachel Hollis' book, Girl Wash Your Face, and that was like the moment for me that like changed my perception of life. And but I think even back of
Love
like
it.
when you hit like a financial lull or like something, there's like a moment that happens and you're like, I can either continue to muddle in this space or I can take control and change it. And so I hate that it has to take that for people to like hit rock bottom for them to like make the change and just not seeing that you can be in a space and just make the change without something traumatic happening.
Yeah, it's the pain of change versus the pain of staying the same. I think change
Mhm.
happens when that pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change. By the way, Rachel Hollis, I read Girl Stop Apologizing,
Mm.
which is sort of the sequel or the prequel to the Girl Wash Your Face. And that book was very transformational to me in that first year when I was just reading books at some point at a rapid rate, like more than I had ever read books, since my formal education ended in college.
Yeah.
That was on the list. And a lot of her concepts were like these were wake up calls for me. And the first
Mhm.
time I had heard some of them, and several of her concepts live in my second book, which is all about that personal success. But you're right, it's a moment often. It's like the person that has the heart attack finally then is motivated to start eating healthy, even
Mhm.
though friends and family for years had been like, you're maybe on the road to something bad. And it was like, it's going to be fine. It really does take, I think, this pain for us to sometimes get jolted into, okay, I got to live differently. And by the way, I guess I'll just give you my thought on it. I have figured out that our brains have different components, and the subconscious part of our brain, statistical studies and research has proven again and again, it very much seeks to avoid pain. It does
Mhm.
not want
Yeah.
us to hurt. It doesn't want us to struggle. It's why change is so hard for us. And these were actually genetic, evolutions of these days when, like, prehistoric, we're being chased by predators. And it's like if you didn't kind of get out of the way or move, you got eaten. And so the
Mhm.
brain, its desire to protect us has it, keeps us alive. But it plays tricks on us and it sabotages us. And I think it leads us to believe that discomfort is bad. Like doing hard things is bad. We should choose the path of least resistance. And so I think it's actually why it takes pain of the current reality to be I guess the catalyst for change, because then we're faced with, well, this is painful too, and change would be painful, but I'm already in pain. And so, like, I'm going to go choose the lesser pain. Without us having pain, it's like our brain tells us that there's no reason to change or get better. Like it's good enough, it's fine. And so I think actually it's not just like for no reason. I think it's the brain's wiring that makes it this way.
Mhm.
So I'm with you. I wish it wasn't this way and it didn't take that, but I think the brain actually causes it for a lot of people. It's like you need to hit rock bottom to be willing to take on other pain because you're already at. So that's my science
I
take
like
on it,
it.
I
And it's
guess.
actually a great reminder, and it totally makes absolute sense. But dang, it sucks sometimes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way around that. It's like embrace the suck. It's just going to be sucky. It sucks
Yeah.
a lot of the time. You said sometimes I'm like, it kind of like usually sucks. Like
Yeah.
most often it sucks, and it sucks bad, I think. This stuff is really difficult, and I guess it's why I am impressed by all the authors and the influencers out there that are kind of saying, "Hey, it's supposed to be that way. It's that way for everyone. You're not abnormal. If it's sucking, it's a sign that you're probably doing what you do to grow and evolve. Don't turn your back on the suck." And so I think those are messages we need to hear because without like normalizing it, we feel like something's wrong. But you're right, it sucks. That's a technical term that I think is perfect. It's sucky.
So true. Okay, so you have your book about like the virtues of being a leader, but you also have a second book called The Six Habits of Powerful People. Talk about the inspiration around that book and what could the listeners, when you're reading it, what would they take away from that?
Yeah, if the first book was designed for all of the moments where I saw lousy leadership make workplaces toxic, and I thought I want to put a book out to help people do better. The second book, the motivation was like me sitting there crying in the bathtub, and then realizing that I had been a major like part of that relationship failing, but I also could make the choice to use that moment to create a much better life for myself. I wanted everyone else to know the same things I learned from that breakup. A lot of the things I figured out was that seeking external validation is a road to a lot of unhappiness. Comparison is the thief of joy. Trying to please other people or do what we think society expects of us is no bueno. It's like we got to follow our hearts and trust ourselves and believe ourselves, or believe in our power. But also, we can get what we want by having vision for the future and
Mhm.
setting goals for ourselves and really saying like, I'm not just going to think about today. I am going to think about really the life I want to build, and I'm going to look at it that way. I'm the architect. I get to build it, and I get to create it. And are the things I'm doing today going to lead me there? And so I guess I'll just quickly share with you, spoiler alert, the six habits, similar to the virtues. It's an acronym. So I'll just tell you the letters real quick and kind of end on that. So habits, H is for have honest humility. A is for action. B is for the brain. So I already kind of gave you some thoughts
Mhm.
on that. I was for inspire ourselves.
Mhm.
T was for trust and treasure ourselves. And then S was to stay securely strong. And a lot of the motivation for this came from people that told me I couldn't do things like, oh, you'll never be able to do that. And the company I kept, and kind of, I had a lot of friends that were gossips or sort of traders, or I didn't know what my own personal values were. And so all of these habits really get into like know thyself, like really know thyself, and be very honest with ourselves and overcoming fear and really having the power to go for it and like believe that we deserve a great life instead of settling. And so that was a lot I just threw at you, but all of that is found in book number two.
I love it. And it's I literally like the last few guests I've had on have all been authors. And so I literally have a stack of books. I'm like, oh, who am I gonna read next? But I love it. And I love all of this so much. And I can't wait. You said you want like 5 books, right? Like you have a goal to hit 5. That's great.
Yeah, I do. And I have thoughts for the following three. So I shared Couldn't Run a Mile with you. It is a running book, but really the lessons that occurred in me and the change and the shift from like Couldn't Run a Mile to 15,000 miles, they're like translatable and universal and they would apply anywhere. So that's a book. I guess you haven't asked me this, but I'll just share. And this is a tough thing to talk about. The fourth book is about childhood, and I do feel that my mother, who I'm sure will never see this episode, she's just not that interested in my life. I feel very confident she has a personality disorder, really suffers from narcissism, suffers from a different
Mhm.
kind of PD as well, and writing about all the things I was shown and taught to believe in childhood, and I basically accepted as truth. And then the unpacking of those things and the unlearning of those things, mainly that began in that 2015 year, but are still work I'm doing today.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people could benefit from a book like that, where it was like I basically was becoming my parents who, actually don't have the life I want to have. And then it occurred to me one day that I could do differently than my parents, and I had to start making conscious choices to go in a different direction. And but what we learn in childhood, it's really strong, it's really powerful, it takes a lot to overcome. And after having kind of been through and on that journey, I did want to write a book about kind of the emotional and mental abuse that happened in childhood, and then how that, I carried that around with me through many years. But then it one day said, wait a minute, like there's a different way, there's a better way. And so it is going to be a book that maybe doesn't make my mother in particular look the best, but I feel like it's a book that does need to be written. So yeah, I struggle with that of like, am I going to write this thing while she's still alive? She's almost 80 now.
Mhm.
But I think I'm going to write it as soon as the I have the opportunity, as I'm done with book number 3. And so that'll be the fourth book.
I
And
think
then
that one,
I guess just because we've come this far,
yeah.
the fifth book would be about things that people don't do that are happy and successful. Lots of books about here's what they do. I kind of want to write the flip side of here's what they don't do, and so that's kind of the plan I have for book 5. So those are the 5.
I love them and I will read every single one of them. I do agree with the past and unpacking the past and like that we are raised to be this person. Like I literally catch myself all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm acting like my mom, which is a person that I don't want to be, right? And so, and I'm doing a lot of
Mm,
women's retreats, and this is like the trauma that is coming up in literally
cool.
every single one of them. And so, yes, I think write the book because you literally are gonna, there's not one person that probably is carrying baggage from their childhood into their real life that they don't want. So I'm here for that one.
Yeah. I guess I should make a disclaimer, and I think this is true for a lot of us that have gone through some aspect of childhood trauma, especially if we were born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like our parents' generation. This is true of them. I think they were doing their best. I think they lacked a lot of tools and resources that we have today. I
Agreed.
think they grew up in a time where it was not acceptable to talk about feelings, and like there wasn't also, I think there was a stigma around counseling or therapy or mental health and emotional wellness. It was sort of like, that's soft stuff. Like,
Yep.
just chin up. Like, don't cry. I just was talking with a client yesterday about the movies Inside Out and Inside Out
Oh,
2.
hmm.
Those movies, they're Pixar movies. I'm not sure if you've seen them. They do kind
Yep.
of a great job of saying, like, you're gonna have all the emotions. But I didn't really grow up in a household that believed that. It was like, don't be sad, don't be angry. Everything should just be hunky dory all the time. And this is very common. And so I guess I think a lot of our parents did as good as they could have and as well as they would have been expected to, and they meant well, and they were just doing the best or what they thought was the best. But we've got a lot more tools in our tool belt today. So I have worked hard not to feel resentful or hostile or like angry about it, and just sort of say, yeah, I'm not mad, but I also don't want to become that, and I don't want to tolerate abuse still today in my life, and I'm going to set boundaries, and if those are broken or not set, like I have the right to enforce them. And so it's kind of a balancing act of hey, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't malicious, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. And so yeah, that's a complicated aspect of it. But I don't know how your mom is. Mine, I think she truly did the very best she could
For
with
sure.
what she was working with. So
For sure. And
yeah,
that is actually a very great reminder. Like the times
yeah,
are very different than they are back then. So I
yeah,
totally agree with that. And it is a very good thing to think about. So thank you for normalizing that. Okay. So
yeah.
you have inspired in so many ways.
You're
Like
welcome. I'm happy to do that.
I've been so inspired by everything that you're doing. Like everyone who's listening is probably taking so many nuggets away. But like, if you could leave the listeners with one thing that you have learned along the path that you wish you know, or like something you believe in now, what would that be?
Oh gosh, there's so many. One that stands out, and I ascribe it to Henry Ford, but I do think I've heard maybe it wasn't Henry Ford that said this, but this is who I give credit for. It's this concept of whether you think you can or think you can't. Either way, you're right. I feel like a lot of us subscribe to limiting beliefs. And so we look at things that people have or things we want, and we're sort of like, oh, that's not for me. I could
Mhm.
never do that. And the reality is self-fulfilling prophecies are a real thing. So from the moment you believe that or say that, it's true. You're not going to do that. It's not going to happen for the person that says it's not going to happen. But if
Mhm.
you really convince yourself or say, I'm going to make this happen, I will be successful, you'll achieve whatever it is. If you're willing to commit to it and you say, I'm going to find a way, your brain will then look for ways to prove you right. It will find the solutions. And I think so often we give away all this power to the universe or our upbringing or our past circumstances or luck. And at the end of the day, it's crap. It all comes
Mhm.
down to us and what we're willing to do and how bad we want it. So I do think if someone's sitting in a situation, they don't like the job they have, they don't like the pay they have, they don't like what their relationship looks like, they don't like where their health and fitness is at. Step one is saying, I want something more and I believe I can achieve it. And I really believe I can achieve it. And then they start saying, okay, then what needs to get done? What actions would a person that really believes that, what would they start doing or taking? And so I think that's one of the biggest keys that unlocks our success in our life is the power of our belief and how we talk to ourselves and what we say to ourselves. So that's
Mhm.
probably the one thing of many I would like to leave your listeners with.
I love that. That is so great. And I totally believe that. And I know so many women in my life right now who need to hear that. So thank you. I'm so glad that we connected. This is why I do this work and why I have this podcast is because I get to connect with women all over the world doing really freaking cool things. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I can't wait to read your books. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Just a shameless plug. If anyone's interested in the books,
Yes.
if you go to my website, the code Virtues 15 and Habits 15 takes 15% off both books, respectively. So amychambers.com, there's a book page, and Virtues 15, Habits 15, 15% discount with those codes. So just throwing that out there if anyone's interested. If wants to save a little money in today's economy, that's those codes will do it. So
Great plug. And I will
thank you
also
for
put
having me, Heather. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, I will put all that information in the show notes too. So yes, thank you. Great reminder. And definitely would love to follow you and stay along your journey. And I can't wait to see the next books.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay.